Now for the more 50-50 games, or less so 50-50 games. I know you had a stat that you wanted to mention about these 8-9 matchups, but we're going to get into each of the game picks. We'll start with Creighton and Louisville. It's been on a lot of people's minds.
Yeah, I have Louisville coming out of that game. Louisville is underseeded and underranked by the committee, I'll say. The fun fact that Pat was mentioning a little bit earlier was that since 2018, number 9 seeds are 16-8 versus number 8 seeds. Again, it's March Madness; anything can happen. But I like we'll get to all the matchups, but I like the 9 seeds to at least go 2-2 in the matchups. Louisville again is they're coming off an ACC tournament where they made it all the way to the final. Nobody was really going to beat Duke, even without Cooper Flag. Duke is a good team and they have depth. I really like this Louisville team. They shouldn't be an 8 seed. They're playing essentially at home in Kentucky, so they're going to have a lot of their fans out there. I think that they'll be too much for Creighton, especially in a down year for the Big East. I don't know that Creighton it deserves a 9 seed, but Louisville shouldn't have been an 8 seed. So I have Louisville over Creighton.
Yeah, I think Creighton is a good team, but as you mentioned, Louisville's probably seeded a little bit too low here. If Rain Smith comes back at any point in this tournament, this Louisville team could be really good. I don't know if he's confirmed to be healthy and ready to go for the first round game, but he's averaging 3.5 3-pointers made per game in 30 games played this year, and that's third in the nation. If he can get going, get hot, I don't really see why this Louisville team can't end up making a little bit of a run. Also, Chucky Hepburn, Defensive Player of the Year. This team is completely different than it was last year. It was 8-24 last year, and I like that story. You go for stories in March. I mean, we could get analytical with all the fun facts that we could possibly get, but sometimes you just got a feeling. And I think we're both going to go with Louisville.
Yeah, I think it's one of the more popular 8-9 matchups too. That like Louisville is kind of heavily favored by most of the public. So we're not going out on a limb here, but I mean I think that most people are right that Louisville, especially in what should be more of a home environment, can pull this one out.
All right, let's go to UConn versus Oklahoma, the two-time defending champions versus the SEC team that started out 13-0. Not so much now. Who do you got?
I'm not betting on the two-time defending champions to lose in the first round. I have UConn in this game. They're holding their opponents to under 70 points a game. They're 5-2 in the top 25. Their BPI rank is 16 to Oklahoma's 43. I think that UConn will pull this one out. I think that they're the better team. Oklahoma obviously went through a very deep SEC conference this year, and every team, I was going to just say, just in general, watch out for the SEC. I wouldn't bet against them too much. They had 14 teams in the tournament, obviously 13 now with Texas losing. That is possibly the best conference of all time. I'm not taking too many teams to be beaten in the SEC, but I like UConn, and you can't really. I personally won't be betting against the two-time defending champions and Dan Hurley, a pissed off Dan Hurley after that dunk in the Big East tournament to lose that game. A pissed off Dan Hurley. I'm not betting against him. I think that UConn pulls it out.
Yeah, maybe one of the more quiet storylines going into the tournament. Also, I just feel like Dan Hurley just seems to always be pissed off. So maybe that's why not everybody is talking about it. Led by guard Solo Ball, who was in the names draft. I don't believe he ended up getting drafted, or maybe he did. I'm trying to think if you ended up drafting.
I took him.
Okay, yeah. Well, you know what? He might add a little bit of memorabilia to his collection, one being the names draft, the other being a round of 32 participant. I'm going with UConn as well. I just don't think that Oklahoma really has the firepower to compete with a team like UConn. But UConn, they've shown that they can get into foul trouble, and sometimes their three-point defense isn't as sharp as it needs to be. Just all about whether or not Oklahoma can take advantage of that. I believe they shoot 79% from the free throw line, which is top 30 in the nation. That's the angle that I see for Oklahoma, but I think we're on the same wavelength there. I think we're both going UConn. I just can't, in good faith, bet against Dan Hurley and those guys. Maybe next year if they lose this game, right? But not now.
Yeah, I mean, I think we're in lockstep there. I think that UConn. I just can't see a world where I said it. I'll say it again. I can't see a world where the two-time defending champions get bounced in the first round. So UConn's the pick there.
All right, let's go to Mississippi State, Baylor.
Mississippi State, Baylor. I have Baylor in this one. It hurts my feelings a little bit to take this one. Norchad Omier is one of their best players. He was a former Miami Hurricane, was on that team that made it to the Final Four. But he's been leading that team. He's been averaging 15 points a game. VJ Edgecombe has been really good for them this year as a freshman. Just an overall really good team out of the Big 12. Obviously, one of the tougher conferences. On the other side, Mississippi State. We just talked about not picking against the SEC. I will say, BPI rank, if you put any stock into it, even though Mississippi State is the 8th seed, they're ranked 35th in BPI, while Baylor's ranked 19th. Baylor's had a tough go at it during the Big 12 schedule, but I think that they're the better team. They play really good defense. Norchad Omier has stepped up in March for the Hurricanes. Hopefully he can do it for my pick with the Baylor Bears.
Yeah, so we're the same here. We do differentiate in the next game, but I'm going to go with Baylor as well. I think that the tandem of both of their backcourt duo is just going to be too strong. But where Mississippi State can excel is through the rebounding battle. When they out rebound their opponents, they're 17-4. They're a little bit of a different team, and Baylor's had some trouble against some strong interior players this year. So that is the angle that Mississippi State can win at. And there's a chance in all of these 8-9 games that either team can come out on top. But I just think that Baylor's just going to be too much. And if Mississippi State loses that rebounding battle, they're 3-9. So if that's all I'm going to bank on, I got to go with Baylor. Let's move to Gonzaga, Georgia, where we disagree. Actually, I have Gonzaga going a little bit further in the tournament, obviously, than you do. You have Georgia. Tell me exactly why you're going to pick Georgia today.
I have Georgia for a variety of different reasons. They've won 4 of their last 5 games, and they're one of the hotter teams in coming into this tournament. Just in general, they have a lot of good players. They have a high scoring offense. I think that they can be one of the better teams in March Madness. Obviously, to beat Gonzaga is quite a feat, especially in the first round. So, I mean, I also like the 2-2 for 8 and 9 seeds. So I mean, I'm going Georgia. I know that you feel pretty passionately about Gonzaga, so I'll let you have that.
So I just think that the bracket matches up well for Gonzaga, but let me just say this. I think Ryan Nembhard, great assist man, and I just think that some parts of March are really determined by those floor generals, the players in the backcourt, and they could potentially make a run. That's why I'm backing Gonzaga here. I think Georgia is really good, and they rank top 20 nationally in offensive rebound percentage, top 30 in free throw rate, and they block an absurd 15% of shots. But in the same vein of me picking UConn, I almost don't want to pick against Gonzaga. They're looking to make it their 10th straight Sweet 16.
Yeah, I mean, I think they'll have trouble doing that either way because I would have Houston the matchup in the next round. But I mean, I also
Never
wanted to
beating
add on
Houston.
to. I was a little bit brief on my Georgia pick. They beat St.
Okay.
John's earlier on in the. I just wanted to because I know you have
Going
Gonzaga
ahead.
maybe going a little bit farther. So St. John's, they beat them at the beginning of the year when St. John's was initially. They only have a couple out of conference losses. They only have a couple of losses in general. They beat St. John's at the beginning of the year. They have wins against Kentucky when they were 6th ranked, against Oklahoma when they were number 17 in the country. They also beat Florida recently. So I mean, they're taking which was the start of their 4-game winning streak when they won 4 of their last 5 to go into March Madness. Good team, really tough conference. I think that Georgia finds a way to pull it out against Gonzaga.